Good evening. So now we can come alive. Okay. So we will begin with the prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems and the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddha's teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there, together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness. May they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. Now, the Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas, called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered, Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form, and form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors in consciousness are empty. Thus, all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tadyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Para Samgate Vade Swaha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, Profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering, and the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Now we shall generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So, we have been studying the identification of the object to be negated in the wisdom section of the Great Lamrim. And for those of you who have books, we are on page 137 of volume 3. And we have these two different classes. I don't know if some of you are following both, but here last week we ended on the top of page 130. Yeah. So I have a note here. So Tsongkhapa is presenting the view of Nagarjuna as interpreted by Buddha Palita and then Chandrakirti. And in establishing the object to be negated, he is pinpointing our inherent existence. It is that quality of independent, inherent existence. And what Tsongkhapa is demonstrating here is that to understand what this inherent existence is that we have to negate when we're talking about the object to be negated. The method for negating it is to understand that we and all phenomena are dependent arisings, and the fact that we are so dependent arising has these two aspects. There's the dependent side and there's the arising or the dependent aspect. The dependent aspect is really negating the idea of any kind of a permanent um, um, quality. And the arising aspect is that there is something there. So you have this dependence, and that goes against uh, um, the idea of reifying things, and then the arising, which counters the idea of over negating. Or good evening. Um, so the nihilistic view is addressed by the fact that there's this arising, and the reification is addressed by the dependence. So dependent arising, this concept of dependent arising, the two qualities are important. Um, and if we understand emptiness of inherent existence to mean dependent arising to mean emptiness of inherent existence, that really working at developing a familiarity with and applying in whatever ways we can the relationship between these two things will really is what Tsongkhapa is emphasizing here, and it will really help us understand this very elusive and subtle concept that that is um, the real essence of Buddhist philosophy, um, and essence of or the basis for the possibility of any kind of spiritual evolution, the possibility of any change from the situation we're in, the possibility of any um, uh, attainment of freedom from the cyclic existence within which we find ourselves, and any possibility of the attainment of the full enlightenment. So you were able to get haircuts because your hair was not inherently in a certain. Yes, the scissors would have a hard time.
Repercussions of inherent.
Yes, if we really explore what something's existing inherently would be, there is no possibility of. Should I do this? Okay. There's no. I could not have moved. I would have been stuck there. There would be the whole idea that we are made up of parts would be impossible if they existed inherently. The the It's if we understand that we are made up of parts, and we are the result of um, causes, all the mechanics of causation, all the idea of being made up of parts, all of those things would be impossible if things existed inherently. And you've heard this, many of you, many times, but still, I repeat it because we have this natural tendency, this natural instinct to view things. Even we look at the clock up there and we see it moving, and we know that, well, this is a clock with a battery, but the battery makes whatever it is do its thing so the parts turn. And an old-fashioned clock that was full of gears and all that, the mechanics of it all are all interdependent. uh, were they to exist inherently, were the clock to exist inherently, that truly would negate the possibility of the interdependent parts that would be able to function as a clock. So Um,
What's the inherent?
sorry,
It won't be able to tell time.
it wouldn't be able to tell time. Well, it would be able. Maybe it would be one time.
If it only
There
be
would be
one
no
time,
time.
it's going to change the time.
It's that thing about broken clock is right twice a day. There's that old saying that broken clock is right 2 times a day.
Yes. I don't think even that would work.
Right.
So it would either always be right or never be right. Either. So I mean, we joke about this, we play with this, whatever. But the exercise, um, um, uh, playing with this with our minds is actually a form of analytical meditation, and it's valid, it's important, it's helpful. I mean, if you can take these ideas and think about them as you're walking around and think, what would that tree be like if it were inherently existent and not dependent on its parts? That would be absurd. And the reason that we that Tsongkhapa dwells on it as much as he does, if it's for me, I'm busy.
Tell an extra cheese.
The reason he dwells on it so much is to really help us break down, help us familiarize ourselves with the absurd ramifications of something existing inherently. So here he goes into. So what I wrote here was so. There are not only do most of the schools of Buddhism, the philosophical schools, the lower schools leading up to the middle way school, and even certain interpretations of Nagarjuna's middle way philosophy, all of them hold that if something exists, it must exist inherently. They hold that, yes, something can exist impermanently. However, for it to exist at all, it must exist inherently. There must be a quality of existence that makes a river and not something else. There is a riverness that establishes that a river is a river. And so the great philosophers uh, who held views that we now consider to be not quite the ultimate view, and who understood all sorts of qualities of something's existence, even, as I say, impermanently. Uh, and then the mind only view that says that all phenomena exist um, as having the same nature as the consciousness apprehending them. So that if I see this pot of flowers, the pot of flowers and my eye consciousness apprehending it are of the same nature, and each of you who see the pot of flowers um, and the pot of flowers that you see are of one nature. Um, this this philosophy really breaks down the exterior quality of existence of phenomena. However, even according to the mind only school that holds this view, if the flowers are, if I am perceiving the flowers and they exist as having the same nature as my eye consciousness apprehending them, they still exist inherently in order for them to be valid flowers. So that this quality of inherent existence is even held by the mind only, the Chittamatra school, that goes to the extent of countering the idea that there is an objectively existent pot of flowers there on its own, free of my apprehending it or your apprehending it. So this is to sort of suggest that this quality of inherent existence is um, is particularly subtle. Now, the dependent arising that Tsongkhapa employs as what he considers to be the king of reasoning to um, establish emptiness of inherent existence. This quality of dependent arising, even that is interpreted differently by the different schools of Buddhist philosophy, uh, different schools of tenets. So um, the among the schools, uh, as they are saying, how can something exist if it doesn't exist inherently? They say, for example, the words that you're employing, if you say that they lack inherent existence, then they don't exist. Uh, how can they be of use in establishing or explaining emptiness of inherent existence? Because they don't exist inherently. So uh, it is at that point that we've arrived in the text. And here, Nagarjuna's own commentary on the refutation of objections here says, failing to comprehend the emptiness of things, you essentialists, the essentialists are those who um, um, say that if something exists, it has to exist essentially, i.e., inherently. You essentialists look for something to criticize and argue against the Madhyamikas, saying, your words lack intrinsic nature and therefore cannot refute the intrinsic existence of things. That's the essentialists' argument. Then here in the Madhyamika, the dependent arising of things is emptiness. Why? Because why is the dependent arising of things emptiness? Because they lack intrinsic nature. In other words, something is empty because it lacks intrinsic nature. Its lack of intrinsic nature is its emptiness. Those things that arise dependently are not associated with intrinsic nature because they lack intrinsic nature. Why? Because they rely on causes and conditions. So he's carefully saying that it is due to something's having causes and conditions that something lacks intrinsic nature. If things had intrinsic nature, then they would exist even without causes and conditions. Since such is not the case, they lack intrinsic nature. Therefore, we speak of them as empty. So you can see that he's really emphasizing this. So I feel a little better about emphasizing it myself. So that was Nagarjuna. And Nagarjuna continues, similarly, my words also are dependent arisings, and therefore are without intrinsic nature. So here Nagarjuna is explaining why his words are effective because they're empty of inherent existence, because they're dependent arisings. Because they lack intrinsic nature, it is reasonable to say that they are empty. Because things such as pots and cloth are dependent arisings, they are empty of intrinsic nature. Yet a pot can receive and hold honey, water, and soup, and cloth can protect one from the cold, wind, and sun. And so it is with my, and so it is with my words. So it's not that the fact that something lacks inherent existence that it becomes ineffective. On the contrary, it's because it lacks intrinsic existence that it can be effective. Because they are dependent arisings, they lack intrinsic nature, and yet they are fully capable of establishing that that things lack intrinsic existence. Therefore, it is inappropriate for you to give the argument because your words lack intrinsic nature. It is not tenable that they refute the intrinsic existence of all things. Okay, make sense?
Makes sense, everything makes sense.
Thus, Nagarjuna speaks very clearly about the pervasion that whatever relies on causes and conditions lacks intrinsic nature, and the counter pervasion that whatever has intrinsic nature does not rely on causes and conditions. He very clearly says that words without intrinsic nature can carry out refutations and proofs. It is even necessary to point out that dependent arising, the production and cessation of afflicted and pure phenomena in dependence on causes and conditions, is located right together with the absence of intrinsic. Oh, this is a question. I'm sorry, I must have read. Is it even necessary to point out that dependent arising, the production and cessation of afflicted and pure phenomena in dependence on causes and conditions, is located right together with the absence of intrinsic existence? Dependent arising is the best weapon to use in order to know the absence of intrinsic existence. You should be aware that only the Madhyamika experts have this unique approach. So, where was the pervasion and counter pervasion? This very clearly. Thus, Nagarjuna speaks very clearly about the pervasion that whatever relies on causes and conditions lacks intrinsic nature, and the counter pervasion that whatever has intrinsic nature does not rely on causes and conditions. Now, that little phrase, that little those two, the pervasion and counter pervasion, are what a meditator would meditate on. So the meditator would say to himself, to herself, I lack, I lack intrinsic existence or intrinsic nature because I am dependent on causes and conditions. If I can understand that if in order for something to um, uh, have causes and conditions, they would lack intrinsic existence. Since I am made up of causes and conditions, I lack intrinsic existence. And now, what's important here is to identify the. I have to see myself as uh, being made up of causes and conditions, of parts, whatever, and understand that because uh, of being made up of causes and conditions, I necessarily would lack inherent existence. There's the counter pervasion. There's no way that something can, if something exists inherently, it couldn't be dependent. Um, as a meditator goes through the forward pervasion and the counter pervasion, he or she will eventually arrive at the point of saying or recognizing, oh, therefore I must lack inherent existence. and uh, develop an actual experience of this, um, the result of this thought process. My goodness, I lack inherent existence. I am empty of inherent existence. That realization of lack of inherent existence would be an inferential realization of lack of inherent existence, which is then focused on um, single pointedly to the point where you would have what is called a direct experience of your emptiness of inherent existence, which is then focused on to the point where you would be removing all afflictions and then eventually the predisposition towards afflictions to the point of removing all obstacles to omniscience and attaining Buddhahood. And so that this sort of simple syllogism, I and am empty. Uh, I am empty of inherent existence because I'm a dependent arising. Um, is the, let's say, the seed is uh, the basis for a meditation that can lead to enlightenment, full enlightenment of Buddhahood. So this is fundamental, and it's fundamental to the what's referred to as the Hinayana path, that is to say, the methods by which you attain freedom from cyclic existence or suffering, and it is fundamental to attaining the fruits of the great vehicle, the Mahayana, which would be Buddhahood. Same formula, same facts. So it is for this reason that Tsongkhapa really emphasizes this. If you hold that dependent production and dependent cessation would have to be essentially existent, meaning inherently existent, and you use the arguments against intrinsic existence to refute the dependent arising of production and cessation, then those arguments, like a god transformed into a demon, will be tremendous obstacles to finding any accurate understanding of Madhyamika. So basically, he's laying forth the absurdity of saying, of claiming to um, uh, claiming uh, uh, that phenomena are dependent arisings, but exist inherently. In that case, when you develop a sense of certainty that phenomena lack even a particle of essential or intrinsic nature, you will then have no basis for developing certain knowledge of the relationship between cause and effect within your own system. You will have to posit those as others see them, etc. Or if you do develop a sense of certainty about cause and effect within your own system, then it will be impossible for your system to foster certain knowledge of the absence of intrinsic existence. You will have to find some other way to construe what the Buddha meant in speaking of absence of intrinsic existence. If this is the case, then you must understand that you have not yet found the Madhyamika view. So he's simply presenting to those misinterpreters of um, um, empty misinterpreters of dependent arising and emptiness, that the quality of inherent existence that they insist a phenomena must possess in order to exist um, cannot exist. Um, if one is sort of intellectually honest about what emptiness of inherent existence is and how it is fundamental to the possibility of dependent arising, then there's no way that you could posit um, phenomena as existing inherently. Is that, does, you're all there?
No, but we're glad.
Okay, okay. I'm not. I'm.
We can get this repeated a couple of times.
Well, the nice thing is that Tsongkhapa really does repeat it a couple of times. What will help you to find the right view? As a basis, you should be all right. So given the fact that all right, we can understand it as we apply it to clocks and things like that, but we still have this instinctual belief in our inherent existence, instinctual belief in the inherent existence of the phenomena that we experience, and so um, to uh, to be able to actually uh, arrive at a point where we can experience this, where we can realize this, we have to accumulate merit. We have to accumulate the basis for uh, being able to understand this. So that's what Tsongkhapa is referring to here. What will help you to find the right view? As a basis, you should be pure in upholding your ethical commitments. And ethics is referring to refraining from engaging in actions that are harmful to others, the not 10 non-virtuous actions, which are um, not stealing, not lying, not killing, not engaging in divisive speech, not well, can someone recite them? Do we have anyone who can?
Harsh talk
Harsh talk, wasting time.
Frivolous speech.
So you can so working at refraining from the non-virtuous actions is very interesting. In the 10 commandments are thou shalt not this, that, and the other thing. And so it's God telling man to refrain from engaging in these actions. While the 10 non virtuous actions, no one is telling one not to do these things. What is being explained, or what is that these actions will cause one to suffer. Uh, Engage in them, but you will suffer. It's your and it's not something that anyone has that any sort of creator has control over. It's something that we individuals have control over, in that we are the ones who are responsible for the actions that we, especially as human beings, have an ability to understand the non-virtuous quality of the actions that cause others to suffer, and can understand the negative karmic repercussions of our engaging in these actions, the fact that they harm others, they hurt others, the fact that they will cause us suffering in the future, the fact that they will cause us to repeat the action, develop a certain familiarity with the action, develop the inability to restrain ourselves from engaging in the action. And then there are those aspects of karma which carry on into the future, which so these habits accompany us from life to life unless we hold them back. They also have ramifications of the situation that we're born into, the physical qualities of the surrounding community of people, the surrounding and physical environment. All of those things are the results of the of our actions. So if we really study and develop some kind of a recognition of or an appreciation for the sort of mechanics of karma, of what are thought of as the laws of cause and effect, um, uh, that understanding itself will help us refrain from engaging in those actions that will cause us to suffer, not just in this life, but in future lives, and cause us to be born in situations that will be difficult, unpleasant, etc., um, and will cause us to repeat the behavior that causes us to suffer. So that the Tsongkhapa is saying that um, to engage in pure ethical behavior, maintaining or upholding our ethical commitments, um, is will enable us to develop a better understanding of emptiness, will and the relationship between um, de- dependent arising and emptiness, being able to see that emptiness of intrinsic existence is dependent arising. Dependent arising is an emptiness of inherent existence. Then strive in many ways to accumulate the collection of merit and wisdom and clear away obscurations. Obscurations meaning the obstacles to be able to understand these things. Rely on the learned, teachers, wide masters who can teach us and who can guide us through the practices necessary to deepen our understanding to the point of a realization and to the point of the ultimate realization that is a realization that removes afflictive obstacles and obstacles to omniscience. And just uh, the afflictive obstacles are the obstacles that uh, cause us to suffer. The predisposition towards those afflictions, the obstacles to omniscience, it is the removal of those that provide us with the tools necessary to be of benefit to others. The particular tool uh, that the obstacle to omniscience, the removal of the obstacle to omniscience provides is omniscience. And it is omniscience by which a Buddha can most effectively benefit all others. Um, they say that in this it's in Nagarjuna's jewel garland that he delineates the 10 grounds of a bodhisattva. When the bodhisattva enters the path of seeing has an initial direct realization of emptiness, and then as a result of that enters the path of meditation and goes through the 10 grounds of a bodhisattva that lead to Buddhahood. At each level of this process, the bodhisattva is able to um, benefit others uh, in a greater and greater way, from the initial ability to manifest in 100 forms in order to help 100 beings within 100 world systems, to I think it's 100,000 to 100 million. It goes, and eventually the bodhisattva is able to manifest in infinite world systems in order to help infinite beings, in order uh, to help them along their path to enlightenment. And I say all this because I find it, I mean, if we think about this, here we are, uh, each of us, none of us knows who anyone else is in terms of their spiritual evolution. I mean, you could all be sitting here as fully enlightened beings, inspiring me to sit and prepare to give this talk this evening in order for me to better understand this. So, thank you, each of you. But truly, uh, Buddhas, and they're not, you know, every aspect, everything, and we can actually learn to view phenomena and view each other in this way, and thereby develop an appreciation for others. And even those who trip us up, those who challenge us, they are teaching us about patience. They are helping us burn off the negative karma that caused us to the true reason for which we suffer. Uh, and if we can see them in that light, and we can be inspired in this sort of positive way, that person really has served in a positive way, and can be seen to be a manifestation of a fully enlightened being for our sake, helping us along. So uh, there are many ways in which we can come to understand that developing um, uh, pure ethics will contribute to our understanding of the ultimate view of emptiness, and striving in many ways to accumulate the collections of merit and wisdom will help us clear away obscurations, and to rely on the learned making efforts to study and to reflect upon their instructions are all essential. We can't simply sort of work at studying um, texts. We have to implement them. Uh, I saw some little clip of Lama saying, "You will not attain enlightenment by study alone." On the one hand, um, study should not be seen as merely an intellectual process. Study should be really viewed as a meditation. We should, when we sit and read, we should really think of this as analytical meditation, as a process of bringing our minds to understand this subject, bringing our minds to appreciate, for example, that dependent arising is the meaning of emptiness of inherent existence, and vice versa. But also, we have to accumulate the merit, uh, generosity, pure ethics, patience, um, perseverance, or joyful effort, and concentration. Without these other qualities, we will not be able to actually deepen our um, uh, understanding of emptiness, or make it experiential. So, since certainty about permanence and certainty about emptiness almost never develop together, it is extremely difficult to find the Madhyamika view. So, um, to be able to see appearance as being empty of inherent existence, bringing the phenomena that we have to see as being empty of inherent existence, uh, the understanding of emptiness on its own is not going to lead us anywhere, but we have to bring that together with this understanding of dependent arising. it is extremely difficult to find the Madhyamika. This is what Nagarjuna meant in the 24th chapter of the Fundamental Treatise. Therefore, this is Nagarjuna saying, therefore, knowing that those of limited intelligence would have a difficult understanding of the depths of his teaching, the mind of the sage turned away from giving this teaching. So, uh, my you know the story of the Buddha having finally realized, uh, brought his realization of emptiness to the most profound point, and thereby attaining Buddhahood under the Bodhi tree. When he arose from his meditation, he looked around and um, didn't see anyone who would be able to understand what he had realized. Um, so that is the mind of the sage turned away from giving this teaching. Then Nagarjuna's precious garland says, when the impurity of this body, which is coarse, directly observable, and continuously appearing, does not stay with the mind, then how could the excellent... So the fact that we are impure, that we are coarse, and that we can actually observe the fact that we are impure and coarse, given that we're not even able to recognize that. In other words, in our daily lives, we think of ourselves as being pure and hardly impermanent, etc. Then how could the excellent teaching, which has no basis, is not immediately apparent, and is most subtle and profound, easily come to mind? Realizing that because of its profundity, this teaching is difficult to understand, the sage, when he became a Buddha, turned away from giving this teaching. Thus, treatises and scriptures state that it is very difficult to understand the profound view. We'll go on a little further. Failing to reach such knowledge of both appearance and emptiness, some mistake the meaning of the statements in certain authoritative texts that demonstrate the absence of intrinsic existence via rational analysis of whether pots and such are one with or different from their parts. So this is a pot is made up of parts. Is the pot one with the parts, or is it different from the parts? This is one of the methods by which we understand, we can come to an understanding of emptiness. If the pot, the inherently existent pot, is one with its parts, then if we look among its parts, we should find it. If there are many parts, then if the pot exists inherently, there would be many pots. If the pot, which is inherently existent, were one with its parts and maintained its quality of unity, then there would be only one part. You couldn't have many parts because there would then have to be many pots. If it's separate from the parts, if the pot, the inherently existent pot, were separate from the parts, that would be absurd, because then the parts would have nothing to do with the pot. This is the reasoning that is used to establish that a pot is empty of inherent existence. There's no potness. There's no pot to be found among the parts. The pot arises dependently. We impute a part upon the parts. So this particular method of reasoning is sometimes misinterpreted by those who say, since the pot cannot be found among its parts, and since the pot cannot be separate from its parts, the pot cannot exist at all. That's the line of reasoning that they're coming to, and Tsongkhapa is saying you got a little bit wrong there. Analyzing whether something such as a pot is any of its parts, such as its lip or neck, they do not find it to be any of those. This leads them to a sense of certainty that there is no pot there. Then, applying the same analysis to the analyzer, they become certain that there is also no analyzer there. They then wonder, if the analyzer is not to be found, then who is it that knows that pots and such do not exist? So they say, things are neither existent nor non existent. If the false certainty brought on by this sort of counterfeit reasoning were considered a case of finding the Madhyamika view, then gaining that view would seem to be the easiest thing in the world. So, in other words, that is wrong. Okay. Therefore, the intelligence should develop an unshakable certainty that the very meaning of emptiness is dependent arising. This is what is said in the definitive scriptures and in the pure Madhyamika texts, the treatises that comment on the intended meaning of those definitive scriptures. This is the distinguishing feature of the Madhyamika experts. Specifically, this is the subtle point that the noble Nagarjuna and his scriptural son Aryadeva had in mind, and upon which the master Buddhapalita and the glorious Chandrakirti gave full comprehensive commentary. This is how dependent arising bestows certain knowledge of the absence of intrinsic existence. This is how it dawns on you that it is things which are devoid of intrinsic existence that are causes and effects. So thank you all for giving me the opportunity to work at understanding this.
So the essential schools, is someone posit that functioning things do have an intrinsic?
Only the Madhyamika Prasangika, only. I mean, the Tsongkhapa was very, very specific.
Even the other Madhyamika school posits that.
Yeah. Even the Madhyamika Svatantrika, the debate between the Prasangikas and the Svatantrikas is the Svatantrikas say, but if something exists, if it exists, it has to exist inherently. Okay, we can deny its true existence, but not its intrinsic existence. So we have been asked to pray for
all the people on both sides.
There's no specific one who's asked absolute pray for, but he said just for the people dying in the Middle East.
all who have died in the Middle East.
All the faults of anger and everything, all to you comes up to this.
So the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He's completely ornamented with all patience. He's the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of Nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the Buni where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavad. It's good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavad teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It frees from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavad, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Jnana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of venerating, they are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion. Virtuous, liberated from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate from the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the light leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore, their fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.